Right now, you are surrounded by things that keep you alive: a tap, a fridge, a lock on the door, a pharmacy 15 minutes away. Take all of it away, every single piece, and drop you into the world of 50,000 BC. How long do you last? The honest answer is days. But that's not the interesting question. The interesting question is, who was the last person in your family who would have been fine? To get there, we have to start with a 17-year-old girl falling out of the sky. On Christmas Eve, 1971, LANSA Flight 508 broke apart in a thunderstorm over the Peruvian Amazon. 92 people were on board. Juliane Koepcke, 17 years old, still strapped into her seat, fell 2 miles into the rainforest. She survived the impact, and here's the part most people don't know: she wasn't the only one. Investigators later established that other passengers survived the fall too. They stayed near the wreckage, they waited to be found, and the forest took every one of them. Juliane walked out. She had a broken collarbone, a gash torn open in her arm, and one eye swollen shut. No food, no map, no shoes. What she had was a sentence her father had said to her. Her parents were biologists who ran a research station deep in the Amazon, and she had spent part of her childhood there. Her father had told her, if you are ever lost in the jungle, find running water, follow it downstream. Small streams feed into bigger streams. Bigger streams lead to people. So she found a stream and she followed it for 11 days. She waded through the water instead of walking the bank because the water was where the snakes weren't. She pulled maggots out of the wound in her arm. On the 11th day, she found a boat and a hut, and she lived. She was not stronger than the other survivors. She was not fitter, or braver, or luckier. She knew one thing they didn't. But here's what's fascinating. It goes the other way, too. And it doesn't matter how strong you are. In 1860, Robert O'Hara Burke and William Wills set out to cross Australia from south to north. They were funded, equipped, and supplied camels, horses, over 20 tons of provisions. Burke was a police superintendent, but a fit, capable, healthy adult man. They reached the north. They turned back. And at a place called Cooper Creek, they starved to death. Not in a desert, in a floodplain, surrounded by fish, birds, mussels, and a fern called Nardu. The Yandrawanda people had been living on that exact stretch of land, well-fed for thousands of years. Burke and Wills found the Nardu. They ground it into paste and ate it. It killed them faster. Nardu contains an enzyme that destroys thiamine, vitamin B1, inside the human body. The Yandrawanda knew this, not the chemistry, but the procedure. They leached it in running water and roasted it before eating. Burke and Wills ground it and swallowed it raw. They were eating and starving at the same time. Every meal was emptying them out. The Yandrawanda noticed the strangers were in trouble, and they tried to help. Burke fired a pistol over their heads to drive them off. He died a few weeks later, lying in a landscape that was feeding other people just fine. So what was Burke actually missing? Not calories, not strength, not intelligence. By every measure available, he was an intelligent man. He was missing a library. Joseph Henrich, an anthropologist at Harvard, spent his career on this exact problem and laid it out in a book in 2016. His conclusion is not flattering. Individually, human beings are not impressive animals. We're slow, we're weak. We have no claws, no armor, and we can barely smell anything. Our advantage was never the brain inside any single skull. It's that we don't have to work anything out. Which plants to leach, which to roast, which to never touch. How to read water, how to nap an edge onto a stone, how to track, how to preserve, how to not die of the cold at 3 a.m. in an open field. Look at your hands. Nothing in them knows how to do any of this. Every single one of those things was solved over thousands of years by thousands of people, most of whom got it wrong first. Every piece of that knowledge cost somebody something. And then it was handed down, unbroken, generation to generation, as a package you inherit for free and never open. Drop a healthy modern adult in the Amazon, and they don't have the package. They have a brain. And the brain is still running. It's still scanning, still trying to solve, still ready to work, and there's nothing in it to work with. A brain has never been enough. It wasn't enough for Burke. And he had 20 tons of supplies. We don't survive because we're smart. We survive because someone told us. And here's the part that should worry you. That library is far more fragile than it looks. Around 10,000 years ago, rising sea levels cut Tasmania off from mainland Australia. A few thousand people were left on the island with no contact with anyone else. For the next 400 generations, same species, same hands, same intelligence. And over those millennia, the archaeological record shows them losing things. Bone tools vanish from the layers. Fishing vanishes. An island population surrounded by fish stopped eating them entirely. Cold weather clothing disappears from a place that gets cold. Nobody got stupider. The population was simply too small to keep every skill in circulation. And when the last person who really knew how to make a bone needle died without passing it on cleanly, the needle didn't get worse, it got gone. That's the thing nobody tells you about knowledge. It doesn't decay. It doesn't fade out gently over centuries. It falls off a cliff. It takes one broken link. And in the last 100 years, we broke almost all of them at once. So that's the answer then. You die because the knowledge is gone. Except that's not quite it either. Now, the obvious reading of all this is that comfort made you soft, that the fridge and the tap and the pharmacy made you weak, and that if you'd only been born tougher, you'd have been fine. That reading is wrong, and it's wrong in a way that matters. You're not weak because you're comfortable. Burke was not comfortable, and Burke is dead. Although, before you get too reassured, a 2017 study out of Cambridge measured the arm bones of women from Neolithic farming communities and compared them to modern competitive rowers. The Neolithic women's bones were stronger. Not the men, the women, routinely, as a baseline, from grinding grain. So yes, you're softer than them, but that isn't why you die out there. The knowledge was never inside you. It was never inside anyone. It didn't live in muscle or in genes. It lived in the space between people, in the telling, the showing, the correcting, the watching your mother do it 400 times before you tried it once. Comfort didn't take that from you. Comfort just made it unnecessary. And a skill that isn't necessary today isn't taught tomorrow. And a skill that isn't taught tomorrow is gone forever the day after that. It doesn't get stolen. It gets put down. So, how long would you survive? Days. Maybe a week if you found water early and got lucky with the weather, but you already knew that. And it was never the point. The point is the last one. Somewhere behind you in a line that runs unbroken for 3 million years, there's a final person who would have been fine, who could have looked at that forest and seen a pantry instead of a wall. They are not a caveman. They are not a stranger. They are 4 or 5 handshakes away from you. They are in a photograph, in a box, in somebody's attic. They have a name you might actually recognize, and in the picture they are standing perfectly still, in their good clothes, looking straight at the camera, and they have no idea they are the last of anything, because that's how it goes. Nobody feels the moment they put it down. For 3 million years, every human being who ever lived carried the entire library forward, whole, and handed it to the next one. You're standing at the end of that line, holding almost none of it, and you will hand your children even less, and neither of you will feel it go.